Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Weddings are supposed to be a celebration of love, unity, and maybe a few bad dance moves and an embarrassing speech from a drunk best man. Today on rSpace, the only thing getting tossed was an entire marriage out the window. Discovered my fiancé cheating 2 days before our wedding. I announced it during my vows instead of saying I do. Hey everyone. I'm not here to tell a story that happened ages ago or that I've gotten over. I'm here because of something that's happened pretty much right now, and I need advice with some urgency. You'll all understand better once I've explained my situation, but honestly, my head is an absolute mess, and I need kind words and good advice. That's pretty much all I'm asking for right now because I'm in such a horrible position and I don't know what to do. Let me cut to the chase. I'm engaged right now, and I'm set to be married in 2 days. My fiancé's name is Louisa, and I met her during an internship that I had with a company in another country. I wasn't planning on doing anything more than having fun while I was overseas, but I was exposed to her on a regular basis during work, and before I knew it, I realized how much I enjoyed spending time with her. So from there, it wasn't too crazy when we started hanging out a lot more. She started teaching me different things about her country, and then we started spending nights together. I realized after a few months that I was in love with her, and I didn't hesitate to let her know how I felt. I mean, I hadn't been in too many relationships before then, and I considered myself to be something of a real lover. At the time, I wasn't jaded. Thankfully for me, she felt the same way about me, and from there, we started dating. That went very well, and when I finished my internship and returned home, we dated long distance for a little over a year, after which she came over to the US. I think that was a relatively easy option for us because her plans already had the US in them, and it just worked smoothly for her to come over at the time we did. And before you say that she is in it for the passport, I made all the moves on her back during my internship, so it wasn't as if this was something that she devised solely for the sake of getting married to me and using me for a green card. We were living together for 5 years when I decided to propose, and it went beautifully. That was a few months ago, and we spent those months planning the wedding. It's going to be expensive, as most of them are, but we've done everything that we can to make sure that we save money where we can. I've never understood nearly bankrupting yourself as a couple and then having to start from financial zero as newlyweds. Anyway, all of that is besides the point, but I do think it is necessary for context. We're getting married soon, that's the summary. I'm really excited about it too, or at least I was. This is where I get into the reason why I'm writing this whole thing in the first place. The worst part is that I'm writing about it feels like I'm making it real because I haven't told a single person about any of this. This is what happened. Between work and all sorts of wedding preparations, Louisa and I are almost constantly out of the house. It is really hard to keep track of where we are during the days, though we make it clear what we plan to do before we leave the house, and then we tell each other how the day went once we get back. It was in the midst of our chaotic schedules that she seemed to find time to be a cheater. The way I found out was pretty silly too. I was going to meet up with the caterer to discuss some changes to the menu and give some samples a try, and she had trusted me to do that. Meanwhile, she said she was going to do a final fitting for her dress. It's important that I mention that we were both supposed to see the baker a few days after that. That was exactly why I was confused when I was leaving the caterer's place and I passed by the plaza where the baker was located and saw her car parked there. It was simply along my route, and I was just lucky enough to spot her vehicle among the other ones parked. I was confused, so I pulled into the plaza and called her. Obviously, there were other businesses there, so I couldn't be entirely sure that the baker was who she came to see, but there was no other explanation that made sense. The first thing I asked after the pleasantries was, "Are you at the baker's place?" If she said yes, I would have asked whether I was mistaken that it was meant for the next day, but she said no. It was weird to me because it wasn't just the same model of car. It was literally hers. I don't know how I thought so fast, considering that there have been very few reasons for me to really doubt her, but I then asked, "Oh, are you still at the bridal shop?" And to that she answered that she was. I just had a bad feeling at that point. I mean, I've never had a reason to think she's a cheater, but in this case, it just felt wrong. It's so hard for me to explain because there was no reason for her to tell such a casual lie, and I'm sure she didn't realize that I knew she wasn't actually at the bridal spot. I made sure to take a picture of her car parked there, and I decided to park as far away from her as I could, but I still wanted to make sure I could see her car. I think I was only so paranoid because of all the stories I read here. I truly never felt like it was something that could happen to me, but I knew there was no harm in trying to see what was going on. It felt like I was being distrustful of someone that was going to be my wife very soon. I felt some guilt at that. She kept texting me like everything was fine, and she even sent me a picture of her sitting in the bridal store. At that point, I was wondering if I was somehow mistaken. Eventually, after about an hour or so, I finally spotted her heading to her car, and seeing her walking to the car hand in hand with the baker was the confirmation I needed. I felt a little relief knowing that I was being paranoid, but I also felt a really horrible feeling inside when I realized that I didn't know her the way I felt I did. The worst part is that the first time I saw the baker, I realized that he was very handsome. But besides that basic observation, I didn't think there was any reason for me to be insecure. It's clear now that I would have benefited quite a lot from being a jealous, insecure man, because it might have scared her out of doing whatever it was that they were doing. They were pretty close to the car by the time I thought to pull out my phone and record. The video was relatively short at that point, where you can see their faces, but there was enough footage to actually make both of them out, thankfully. She got in the car, and then she drove off, and that was it. He watched her drive off before heading back into the store. I was really tempted to go and confront him and figure out what had been going on, but I realized how stupid it would be to try to get the truth from him first. I do realize that all it would have taken would have been a little aggression, and he would have folded, but I didn't want to go down that route, in case I was mistaken about the whole situation. When I got home later that night, I tried my best to act normal around Louisa, but honestly, I couldn't stop staring at her, wondering what other secrets she was keeping from me. We were going to get married in literally a couple of days. I also tried to make excuses for her. I tried not to, but my brain kept doing it. Like, maybe them holding hands was a platonic thing. Maybe I didn't see it well. Maybe he was helping her cross the parking lot. I was thinking of all sorts of stupid things. Ultimately, I felt too anxious to confront her about it that night. She noticed something was off, but I just said it was nerves ahead of the wedding. I didn't want to confront her because it felt like I was about to ruin something I had been waiting to the last several years for. I didn't even want to accuse her because if I was wrong, it'd destroy us. So that night and the next, I didn't say anything up until today, the same day that I'm writing this. Like I said, we're getting married in 2 days, and I realized that I couldn't put it off any longer. She's not the kind of person who is overly protective of her phone, so the first thing I did was grab it when she wasn't looking, and I went straight to her conversations with the baker. It was such an unassuming place for an affair to be that she didn't bother to hide anything. There wasn't too much there, but there was enough. Messages like, "Coming over? I can't wait to see you again." That was incredible. It was driving me insane reading it, and I just had to confront her at that point. I went up to her and told her that we needed to talk about something serious. I don't know why it pissed me off so much that her response was, "I'm glad. I noticed that something was off with you." Because she was the cause of what was off with me, so it was annoying that she felt I was too stupid to have an idea of what she had done. I asked her about Marco, which was the baker's name, and I noticed her jump a little. She asked me why I was asking about him, and I said she had gone to see him earlier that week, so she was meant to know. She seemed confused by that. She said that wasn't true. We were supposed to see him 2 days after I caught her. But I said we should just stick with the previous cake plan because I didn't want to see him and I didn't want her to see him either. I told her that I had seen her car there and she tried to deflect it by saying it was someone else's car. But I told her that I literally stopped beside it and saw that the plate was hers. She stopped answering as quickly at that point because she realized she was going to have to really think about her answers. At least, that's my assumption. She said she stopped by to ask the dry cleaner in the plaza how much their services were. I told her that she literally told me she was still at the bridal store when I asked. She said that the dry cleaner wasn't the only thing she went to do there. Supposedly, she had gone to sort out the logistics for a surprise for me, and that's why she had been lying. That she really didn't go to the dry cleaner. The surprise angle was meant to cover up all of her lies, and I remember that I couldn't help but smile and shake my head at that point, because she didn't know that I saw her hand in hand with the baker, and she didn't know that I saw her texts either. So I presented her with the first piece of info, and I asked why she had been walking hand in hand with the baker that day. "Was that the surprise you were planning for me? That you're sleeping with Marco?" She started to tremble visibly. That was when I realized for the real that there wasn't an explanation to everything I had seen. It was exactly as I thought it was, and that crushed me. She tried to say that she wasn't sleeping with him, but it only came out as a mutter. From all the stories I've read here, I expected her to be a lot more defensive, but it was apparent I had caught her off guard, and she didn't even have the willpower to save the situation anymore. I had so much I wanted to say in that moment, but I felt so defeated. I looked at her and I raised my voice and asked her how she could do something like that, literally days before we were supposed to get married. She just started crying and saying that she was sorry. It was all coming in between tears, and that was pissing me off. She just kept saying that she was sorry over and over, so I walked out on her and went to our bedroom to just get away from it all. I was in the room alone for like an hour before she came in to meet me. It was clear that she had spent all of that time crying. When she walked in, I waited for her to talk, and I think she hoped that I was going to talk first, but obviously, there was no reason I would do that. I needed her to feel as much discomfort as I could. Eventually, she spoke, and she said that she wanted to explain herself. I told her to go ahead, that I was listening, and it took her another few minutes for her to say anything. According to her, she had indeed cheated on me with Marco, but that she really hadn't meant for it to happen. She said it was the first time she had ever wronged me like that, and that it came in a moment of weakness. She knew that the moment she got married, she wouldn't be able to do anything of the sort, and it felt like one last moment of excitement. I don't know whether she felt like all of that was supposed to make me forgive her, because it wasn't even close to making me feel that way. We're supposed to be getting married in 2 days, and that should be the one time when your love for someone should be at its absolute peak. The very fact that despite that, she didn't mind sleeping with someone who was essentially a stranger? She was looking for excitement just days before she was meant to tie the knot with me, and she didn't care until she got caught. I told her all of that. It hurt so bad, and I really don't know what to do. There's so much money buried in our wedding plans. Some people have made the decision to fly from abroad for this. I don't even think I can take my head being turned upside down this close to something that was already inducing anxiety in me. That's why I came here to voice all my thoughts. I felt like I'd have gone crazy if I didn't, and I felt a little better, but I still need to figure out what to do. I'm so clueless in that regard. Edit. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I told Louisa that we're going to figure it out and get through the wedding first. She seemed relieved, and she's doting on me at this point. I guess she thinks that's restitution. Here's the thing. I don't want to deal with a divorce. Those are messy, and I've seen what they look like through stories here. It took me stewing with my emotions to realize that things will never be the same between us. I resent her, and I want to humiliate her, and I'm going to make sure I do that. The wedding will happen. It might as well, since we've paid for everything, but I'm going to make sure that I never get to the point where I am married to her. Update. My wedding was a few days ago, and I know I'm only just here with the update, but I had so much that I was dealing with that I couldn't be back here before then. All I can say is thank you for all the support you expressed under my previous post. I really do appreciate it. I really do want to be done with this saga in my life, so I'm going to do my absolute best to speed through everything that happened. I feel like writing this will be one step for me to bury all of this. I can jump ahead to the wedding because everything that came before that was as expected. I told my groomsmen what was going to go down, and that was the first that they had heard of my plans. I told them not to tell anyone, and they assured me that they wouldn't. We did all the usual stuff until we got to the point where we were both up on the altar. I had the idea to push her to say the vows first, but I realized how little I wanted her to say any kind of romantic words to me. So I did it as is typical and chose to say my vows first. I was sure to look her in the eye for several seconds beforehand, and I made sure to let the smile I had been wearing before wipe away. I would have thought she was clairvoyant, because in her eyes, I was almost sure that I saw some recognition, as if she knew what I was about to do, and she was clearly frightened in that moment. I watched as a tear rolled down her cheek, and I like to think that it had nothing to do with the ceremony. My vows were relatively long and started with the usual bull about the first day I met her, how she changed my life, and all that kind of stuff. It was when I got towards the end of the vows that I had written that I started getting nervous, but I made sure I was going to go ahead with it. So, to the garden with a little under 100 people. I led into my speech with, "But I'm afraid that I can't spend the rest of my life with you." And I remember hearing audible gasps. She just looked like she had seen a ghost, and at that point, she was holding back from sobbing. I told everyone that my darling fiancé had cheated on me at least 2 days before that very day. The whole crowd went active with whispers when I said that, and I promised everyone that there was photo and video evidence of it in case they doubted what I was saying. I talked about how disappointed I was in her and how she had single-handedly ruined that day for everyone. That pain is going to stay in people's heads for the next several years, or months at least. From that point, I asked everyone to have fun and attend the reception since it was paid for. I didn't expect that many people to show up at the reception, but they did. Without spending much time there, I decided to leave because I really couldn't bear it anymore. I did want everyone to have fun, and according to my groomsmen, with the exception of my best man who came to check on me, they truly had a blast. There was a little satisfaction in knowing that the money wasn't wasted. Needless to say, from the moment I left the wedding reception, Louisa had been calling me almost non-stop, but I simply didn't give it any mind because she's not in my life anymore. I know I'll have to deal with her being a nuisance for a lot longer, but that's a small price to pay, and I'll probably block her in the end. Writing this makes me feel better too, and I'm sure this is the last that I'll have to say about all of this. So I just want to thank you all one more time for being such a great community for men like me. I don't know what kind of alternate reality Louisa was living in where walking hand in hand with the baker while prepping for a wedding she clearly had no respect for was fine, but here we are. Yeah, people will talk for a while, but not about you. They'll remember the guy who handled being cheated on with dignity and clarity. You saved yourself a miserable marriage. If she was willing to blow everything up before the wedding, imagine how things would have looked a year or two in. What was the worst thing you found out days before your wedding? Let us know the dirty deets in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.